Welcome to ITT Talks. I'm Anastasia Lavrina. A huge earthquake killed thousands of people in Turkey and Syria on Monday. The countries from all around the globe are sending its assistance to Turkey and Syria to deal with the consequences. Stay strong, brotherly Turkey and people in Syria. Let's talk in details about the current situation in Turkey with our special guest who joins from Turkey. It's Matthew Bryza. Hello, Matthew, and welcome to our program.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Anastasia, as always.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining our program today. And please tell us more in details about the current situation in Turkey.
Well, it's utterly horrible, and everybody should be sending all the prayers they possibly can to help the poor people still stuck under the rubble who are freezing. It's so cold here. They're terrified, and it's going to be a horrible night. The devastation is unbelievable, and the devastation stretches for over 500 kilometers, like 550 kilometers from Diyarbakir. The viewers know where that is, right? I mean, near the borders with Syria and Iran and Iraq, where all those come together, all the way to the Mediterranean Sea, to Latakia, Syria, and the area of people who have been affected, it accounts for maybe 15 million people. There are several Turkish cities that are more than 2 million, like Şanlıurfa, even Diyarbakir, Gaziantep, and it's not just the immediate damage and then the survival, which is the biggest, most urgent task. But then there's people needing to get to hospitals. Hospitals are working. Turkey, as you know, has world-class healthcare. But many places the roads are blocked by snow, and it's just difficult to maneuver. But then after that, what happens to literally millions of people who can't go back to their homes because they're too dangerous? I mean, there were two 7.7 earthquakes today. There were 60 some aftershocks, some as big as 6.6 on the Richter scale. That's a huge earthquake in itself. And so I think back to 1999, I happened to be in Istanbul when that earthquake hit. It was summer, and people ended up living in tents for years. And so that's what's going to happen. But that sheltering process, it hasn't even really begun yet. Markets aren't open. People can't get food, water. The government's making a massive response, and it seems like it's really well organized. But this is overwhelming. International support has been great. I mean, there have been countries saying we'll provide you anything you need, which is what President Biden has said from my country. But Azerbaijan, as you know, is sending rescue crews. The European Union, NATO, even countries that have been at odds with Turkey, like France, even Armenia, for God's sake, and Israel are sending assistance. So I think this is a watershed moment in recent Turkish history. And I think it's going to have a huge impact on politics here domestically. There's an election, as we know, in May. And will have a huge impact on Turkey's foreign policy in the longer run, meaning that I think a lot of the irritants in Turkey's relations with some other countries, including ones I just mentioned, are going to seem ridiculous in the context of this tragedy and will melt away. So hopefully, this tragedy leads to something similar to what happened in 1999 when Greece and Turkey really improved their relations after the earthquake in Turkey. I think it was in July, and then like a month later in August, there was one in Greece, and then Turkey helped Greece after Greece helped Turkey. So it's horrible, though.
Matthew, the devastating earthquakes have also touched the energy infrastructure. How serious is the damages?
No, of course, this has nothing to do with Baku Tbilisi Ceyhan, Southern Gas Corridor. No, this is a massive humanitarian emergency. None of those mega projects will be impacted by this. But for the moment, for Turkish people, let's say those that are fortunate enough in those affected areas not to have to leave their homes, BOTAŞ has cut off the gas because there's too much of a risk of an explosion. But no, for the East-West corridor, this will have no impact. Turkey will recover from this. It's just there's so much suffering that's going to be endured by the people of Turkey now.
Matthew, last week, very important energy forum was held in Baku. To tell precisely, the 9th Salt and Gas Corridor Advisory Council ministerial meetings and the first Green Energy Advisory Council ministerial meetings. Many experts from the European countries have also participated. And we know that Romania can become another country who joins the Salt and Gas Corridor. The gas export from Azerbaijan should be starting in the near future. How can I help for the energy security of Europe?
Well, I mean, Azerbaijan's deliveries to Europe of gas are still modest, right? I mean, it's 10 BCM. By comparison, Russia delivered 155 BCM last year. But Azerbaijan's delivery to countries like what you said, like Romania, or like Bulgaria, is significant because especially Bulgaria has been so dependent on Russian natural gas. Hungary has always been in the game for itself. I mean, I spent years working with the Hungarian government and, of course, with the Bulgarian and Romanian governments at the presidential level, prime ministerial level. Romania was always aware of the need to diversify its supplies away from Russia. Bulgaria and Hungary were not. They had no desire to. They wanted to keep on working with the corrupt Russian energy entities. And that's changing now. Bulgaria is doing better thanks to help from Azerbaijan. And of course, now, as you said, Romania is going to get some gas from Azerbaijan. But, until there's more investment in Azerbaijan, I know we'll talk about this in a second, to produce more gas, as well as until there's the massive investments that the Azerbaijani government is going to have in renewable energy, which then will free up gas for export. It won't be possible yet for Azerbaijan to increase the deliveries to Europe as significantly as it will be after 2027. And as we know, according to the Strategic Partnership Agreement on Energy between the European Union and Azerbaijan, the goal is to double Azerbaijan's natural gas deliveries to Europe by 2027. That will happen. I have no doubt it'll happen, but it's going to take some investments in both renewable energy and then upstream natural gas production.
So when it comes to the further development of the Southern Gas Corridor, we shall speak also about the interconnectors. That's very important for the future development of the pipelines inside the Europe. As for now, we have very important project, interconnector Greece-Bulgaria, which already operates and assists many countries in these particular issues. And there is another one under construction, Bulgaria and Serbia, which will deliver the gas to Serbian market as well. But I think, as many experts are also saying, more interconnectors are needed for Europe to make this project even more reliable and make sure that European countries get an access to the Azerbaijani gas. So how do you think this process should be developed, and what countries can also take part in these projects?
Well, the ones that you said, I mean, for over 2 decades, to Hungary's credit, it was Hungary that was saying that there need to be more interconnections, north-south interconnections to complement the east-west interconnections, and that's happening. And the Serbia connection is a good next step that will help to get Azerbaijan's gas into the heart of Europe, and not only Azerbaijan's, also liquid natural gas from the United States, from Qatar, from all the suppliers. So it's not only the interconnectors. There also needs to be more ways to land the gas, the liquid natural gas, as the jargon goes, and then to regasify the liquid natural gas. That's a big bottleneck right now. So for now, if you're talking about the area that you're focused on the Balkans, the Western Balkans and Eastern Balkans, Romania, there's really only one reliable LNG import terminal. That's Revitusa, Greece. And Greece has maintained a monopoly and enjoyed it at Revitusa, but that's hopefully about to no longer be a monopoly, as Turkey now is going to open up its LNG import facilities and regasification facilities for Bulgaria to be able to import liquid natural gas and then move it through, as you said, the interconnector Greece-Bulgaria. So it's both those, as you said, interconnecting pipelines that need to expand. But Europe's done a good job on that in the last 15 years. And then also we really need Turkey to open up its LNG terminals, and not just for state-to-state agreements like with Bulgaria and Bulgargas, but for the private sector, because government-to-government agreements are not efficient. And what Azerbaijan did so brilliantly with the contract of the century was to open its oil and gas sector to private companies, and that's why it's been such a huge success.
Yes, Matthew, I know that you are speaking about importance of the private companies' involvement. And for your information, speaking about the development of the Black Sea electric cable, where 4 countries are currently being involved, it's Azerbaijan, Georgia, Hungary, and Romania. The sides are willing to invite more private companies to join the process. But as it was emphasized during the event in Baku, the process should not be limited to 4 countries only. There should be more countries, because when it comes to renewables and electricity transportation from Azerbaijan, from our region to Europe, more and more attention being paid to this project. So how do you see the process? What countries else can join this procedure and how it can contribute to the energy security development of Europe?
Well, for renewables in Azerbaijan, there are already two private companies with state support, of course, but there's, Masdar from the United Arab Emirates and there's Aqua from Saudi Arabia. And, the private sector has way more money available for energy investments than the public sector, than governments do. Governments can't do these projects. It's inefficient. There's corruption in so many countries. And the projects, if a government organizes them, won't make commercial sense. You have to have private companies involved to make these projects successful. And so who will be involved in Europe? I mean, once electricity gets into the European grid, all the European electricity systems are interconnected, they're synchronized. So it really doesn't matter who else joins, right? You just need people to buy the electricity, private buyers and utilities that will deliver the electricity to all the markets in Europe based on market principles of supply and demand. In other words, you don't need governments to get in the way, but let the private companies work with their private households and industries that know what energy needs they have, and let the people sign contracts accordingly, and then it'll work great. All you need to do is to connect that electricity from Azerbaijan into the European, pan-European electricity grid, which then is all synchronized. And by the way, Turkey is part of that grid too. So electricity that's delivered to Turkey can also reach anywhere in Europe.
Matthew, we touched many important issues, but just to sum up what we have already discussed, we all know that last year in July, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, came to Baku, and a very important document was signed with the President of Azerbaijan Republic, Ilham Aliyev, which also says that the amount of gas from Azerbaijan to Europe will be doubled by 2027. Could you tell us briefly what should be done in 2023 to make these expectations more reliable and possible?
Well, I already touched on that. In fact, what needs to happen is there needs to be enough gas to put in expanded pipelines, right? I mean, of course, there needs to be a bit of investment to expand the Tanap pipeline across Turkey. Don't need very much investment in the Trans-Adriatic pipeline to increase the volumes that can be delivered to Italy. It doesn't take much to expand the interconnector Greece-Bulgaria from the current 3 billion cubic meters to 5. What you really need is more gas. I mean, there's not enough natural gas being produced in Azerbaijan to double the deliveries to Europe. And so that's what I was talking about in the beginning. There needs to be the next round of upstream investment. So that means investment in the natural gas fields offshore in Azerbaijan. And then also there needs to be the large-scale renewable energy investments that will allow electricity to be produced from the sun and wind rather than by Azerbaijani natural gas. And then Azerbaijan will have more gas to deliver onward to Europe. In addition, there's gas from Turkmenistan, and there's been a lot of interesting discussion going on between Baku and Ashgabat over the course of the last year, even 2 years. We know about the agreement to develop the Dostluk field jointly. I think that's going to take a little while, though, because things sometimes move slowly in Turkmenistan. There's already some gas from Turkmenistan that's making its way to Azerbaijan via Iran through swaps. And then I know that President Aliyev has proposed that there be a pipeline connecting Turkmenistan's offshore field known rather prosaically as Block 1, which is operated by Petronas, the Malaysian company. So connect that with the existing Azerbaijani oil and gas infrastructure, specifically at the Azeri Sharab Guneshli production platforms in Azerbaijan's sector of the Caspian Sea. That's not a long connection. I think it's like 60 kilometers, something like that. Not particularly expensive investment, and that could unlock very large volumes of gas from Turkmenistan. So if you do everything I said, I think you could see Azerbaijan providing much more than 10 billion cubic meters of additional gas by 2027. It could be up to 15, even 20, that could be available theoretically.
So, Matthew, from what you are saying, I can conclude that the project, the Southern Gas Corridor, just strengthens the integration between the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea, and Europe.
Sure, it could. Yeah. I mean, since I began working on these issues since 1998, that's been a dream of ours. And, it's worked. The Southern Corridor and Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline, of course, has helped Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey work together, and now connects Azerbaijan to Italy and beyond, to the markets you just mentioned in Romania and soon to be Serbia. So my view and my experience has been there's no such thing as a peace pipeline. The pipelines don't create the political cooperation unless there's already a political will to cooperate among countries and build some big energy infrastructure. And once that happens, once the initial infrastructure is built, like the Southern Corridor in its current form, then the next phase can happen where that existing infrastructure then fosters further and broadened cooperation among countries. And that then feeds back into further energy investments. So it's sort of a feedback loop. But first, you have to have the political commitment that Azerbaijan showed with Turkey and with Georgia way back in the mid-1990s.
And my final question to you. It was about 3 decades when the United States of America were trying to diminish the dependence of Europe on Russian gas. And now they can see the process is going. The countries are willing to diversify its energy policy. What can you tell us about the current expectations of the US government? How the United States are planning to act in this particular situation to make the projects even more prosperous and to bring new countries exporter to Europe?
I don't think Washington needs to play a role anymore. We did it. If it wasn't for the United States, there never would have been a Southern Corridor. The European Union was not in favor of it. We persuaded the European Union that it was in their interest to do it. And that Germans and others were just too afraid of aggravating Russia. And we consistently made the point, the day will come where you're going to be sorry you're so dependent on Russia. You need to focus on Azerbaijan and other Caspian countries. So some in the European Union, especially in the European Commission and Directorate General for Energy, but also in the Council, also then Commissioner Andris Piebalgs, the Latvian, they saw the same strategic vision we did in the United States. And eventually the EU then embraced the Southern Corridor as its own. And thank God it did. Now the European Union understands. It understands that it really should have been working much harder at this before. And as you said yourself, Anastasia, there's now the strategic energy partnership between the European Union and Azerbaijan. And so the EU has woken up. And I don't think it needs the United States to organize, as we did. We organized the countries and companies. And we actually, I sat for years at the negotiating table with the leadership of Azerbaijan and Georgia and Turkey, and also with the companies, with BP, with SOCAR, with TPAO. And if it wasn't for the US and the Turkish government, there never would have been those agreements. But again, as I said, now those agreements are all in place. The first projects are working and they're hugely successful. So now it's up to the European Union to take care of its own national security and energy interests. And it's doing so. I'm happy to see that.
Matthew, thank you so much for joining the project today. It was a pleasure to talk with you about these really important issues.
Thanks, Anastasia. Great to be with you. Great questions.
Thank you so much.